There's a house on almost every block with a front yard that seems to run on autopilot. The color starts in May, rolls right through the dog days, and is still going strong when the school buses start running again in the fall. And here's the strange part. You never catch the person who lives there crouched over the beds with scissors, picking off dead flowers one at a time while the sweat rolls down their back. It's not that they have more time than you, and it's not that they have some secret fertilizer program. They made one smart decision years ago at the garden center. They picked flowers that tidy themselves up, and once you know which flowers can do that, you'll never look at a plant tag the same way again. I'm Helen, and welcome to Helen's Front Yard, where our whole philosophy is that a garden exists to give you joy, not to hand you a second job. Around here, we're all about big color with small effort, because I'd rather spend my evenings admiring my flower beds than crawling through them. If that's the sort of gardening that appeals to you, go ahead and press that subscribe button right now so the next video shows up in your feed, because today's list alone could hand you back entire weekends between now and the first hard freeze. Now, in case the word is new to you, deadheading means removing blossoms once they've wilted and browned. There's a real logic behind it. A flower's whole purpose, from the plant's point of view, is to produce seed. Snip the fading bloom before seed can form, and many plants will try again with a fresh round of flowers. So yes, the technique works, and yes, it keeps a border looking neat. But let's tell the truth here. Crouching along the edge of a bed in the full blaze of an afternoon in late July, sweat stinging your eyes, hunting for every browned petal, is not why any of us fell in love with flowers. If your knees complain when you kneel, if your back has opinions about bending, or if you'd simply rather be doing nearly anything else, deadheading can quietly steal the pleasure right out of this hobby. Here's what should cheer you up. There's a whole club of perennials that will pump out color for month after month, whether you ever touch a spent bloom or not. Today I'm handing you 9 of them. Plant these, and the snips can stay in the garage while you stay in the porch swing. Let's dig in. Before I name names, I want to spend a minute on why this works, because once you understand the why, you can spot low-effort plants on your own for the rest of your gardening life, long after this video ends. The first group is known as self-cleaning plants. Once a bloom on these plants is finished, the petals detach on their own and flutter down into the mulch, where you'll never notice them. The plant essentially deadheads itself, which means it never goes through that ratty, brown, half-dead-looking stage that makes you reach for the scissors. The second group wins by sheer output. These plants set buds so constantly and so abundantly that fresh flowers are always opening faster than old ones fade. The old blooms are still technically there, but you'd have to go looking for them, because the new color buries them. And the third group simply doesn't follow the usual rule. Most plants slow down on flowering once they've set seed, because from the plant's perspective, mission accomplished. But some perennials are wired to just keep producing blooms all season, no matter what's happening with seed production. Cutting off their old flowers barely changes anything, so why bother? And I want to add something that I wish more gardeners would hear. A spent flower left on the plant is not a mistake you failed to correct. In a lot of cases, it's a contribution. Seed heads left standing become a natural bird feeder from fall clear into the cold months. Finches, sparrows, chickadees, they will all work those dried heads long after your feeders would have needed refilling. Standing stems catch frost and snow, and give the winter garden shape and interest instead of a flat, empty stare. Garden designers have been preaching this for years now, that a border left standing through winter is better for wildlife and honestly better looking than one that's been buzzed down to stubble in October. So if anyone ever implies you're cutting corners by skipping the deadheading, you can smile and tell them you're gardening with nature instead of against her. The short list of rules that covers everything. All 9 plants coming up have remarkably similar needs. So let me give you the care instructions once, up front, instead of repeating myself 9 separate times. Rule 1 is drainage. Every single plant on today's list would rather be too dry than too wet. If puddles linger in your beds a day after a rainstorm, mix in compost and gritty material before planting, or build the soil up into a low berm or raised bed. I'll say this plainly: winter wetness kills more of these perennials than winter cold ever will. Rule 2 is sunshine. Aim for 6 or more hours of direct sun. 1 or 2 of our 9 will forgive a bit of afternoon shade, and I'll flag those when we reach them. But as a general principle, sun in equals flowers out. Rule 3 might surprise you. Hold back on the fertilizer. Every plant I'm about to show you flowers best in ordinary, even slightly poor soil. Pamper them with rich ground and heavy feeding, and you'll grow big, soft, floppy plants that produce leaves instead of blooms. A thin layer of compost spread in spring is all the feeding these plants ever need. Whatever you do, keep the lawn fertilizer far away from them, because all that nitrogen works directly against you. And Rule 4, water them properly in year 1, and then mostly leave them alone. During the first growing season, give a deep soak whenever the top few inches of soil dry out. That deep watering pulls the roots downward. Come year 2, those deep roots let the plants ride out dry spells that would flatten shallow-rooted annuals, and your watering chores shrink to nearly nothing. That's the whole rule book. Now let's meet the team. Number 1, Catmint. If a brand new gardener asked me to name a single perennial that delivers the most flowers for the least fuss, I wouldn't even pause before saying Catmint. You'll find it under the botanical name Nepeta, and the selection called Walker's Low is the one you're most likely to meet at the nursery. It once took home the Perennial Plant of the Year award, and having grown it for years, I can tell you the judges got that one right. The plant grows into a loose, rounded cushion of small gray-green leaves with a silvery cast, and if your hand grazes the foliage as you walk past, you get a puff of that clean, herby, minty scent. Come late spring, hundreds of thin flower spikes rise up and open in a haze of soft violet blue, and then the show simply refuses to end. Fresh spikes replace old ones for week after week after week, and certain varieties will still be showing color when summer is winding down, all without a single snip from you. The care list is almost embarrassingly short. Sun and drainage. That's it. Catmint doesn't sulk in bad soil. It doesn't wilt in a dry stretch once its roots are down, and that fragrant foliage that we enjoy is exactly what makes deer and rabbits walk right past it. If your neighborhood deer treat your beds like a buffet line, catmint is one of the safest bets you can make. And while the deer stay away, the pollinators arrive in force. Stand next to a blooming catmint on a warm day, and the whole plant buzzes like it's plugged in. Here's one completely optional move for the ambitious. After that first huge wave of bloom finishes, which around here means early August, you can take head shears and cut the entire mound back by roughly half. 2 minutes of work, done standing upright, no bending, and the plant answers with a second flush that's often thicker than the first. But I want to be clear, that's a bonus round, not a chore. Skip it entirely and catmint still colors on into fall. Use it to edge a path, soften the front of a border, or tumble over a wall. Every few years, dig and split the clump, and suddenly you've got free plants for the mailbox bed and a few to hand over the fence to the neighbors. Number 2, Russian sage. Catmint handles the front row. For the middle and back of the bed, meet its taller cousin in spirit, Russian sage. Botanically, it goes by Perovskia atriplicifolia, and what it delivers is a see-through cloud of color, tall silver-white stems around 4 feet high, absolutely peppered with tiny violet flowers, so airy that the whole plant reads like purple smoke drifting above the garden. And this plant is built for the exact stretch of summer when everything else gives up. It hits its stride in the heat of midsummer and then just keeps rolling deep into autumn. The worse the weather gets, the better it looks. Blistering sun, drought, reflected heat off a driveway, none of it phases a plant whose ancestors grew wild on dry Asian steppes. Your toughest, hottest spot is its favorite spot. As for deadheading, the question answers itself the moment you look at the plant. The flowers number in the thousands, and each one is smaller than a grain of rice. Nobody could deadhead this thing, and mercifully, nobody needs to. Bloom continues non-stop without intervention, and even once the actual petals drop, the tiny silvery cups that held them stay behind and keep the plant washed in soft lavender-gray color for weeks longer. That's months of presence from a plant that never asks for attention. 2 warnings and 1 task. Warning 1, this plant must have full sun. Shade turns it into a leaning, sparse disappointment. Warning 2, it must have sharp drainage, especially in winter. The single task comes once a year, in late winter or the first days of spring. Cut all the stems down to about 8 inches before new growth begins. 1 haircut per year. Compare that to a rose's schedule and tell me this plant isn't a gift. The foliage smells of sage, which means, once again, deer and rabbits look elsewhere for lunch. Group several together and you get a shimmering drift that flatters every plant near it, especially the golds and oranges coming later in this list. And speaking of later, if you're getting good ideas from this video so far, would you tap the like button for me? It costs you nothing. It tells the algorithm to show this to other gardeners whose knees deserve a break, and it tells me to keep making videos exactly like this one. Number 3, hardy geranium roseanne. Our third plant carries the self-cleaning idea to its logical extreme. Roseanne is a hardy geranium, sometimes called a cranesbill, and before we go on, understand this is not the geranium in a plastic pot at the grocery store every spring. Those are annuals from an entirely different family. True hardy geraniums come back year upon year, and Roseanne is the queen of them all, another perennial plant of the year winner, with possibly the longest bloom season of any perennial you can buy. The flowers are the thing. Saucer-shaped, a rich violet blue with a pale eye at the center, produced continuously from the start of summer until frost finally calls time. And when each flower finishes, the petals just let go and vanish into the foliage below. You will never see a browned, crispy bloom on this plant, which means you will never feel that itch to go clean it up. It grooms itself, all season, every season. Roseanne is also one of the flexible ones I promised. She's happiest with full morning sun, but in hot climates she actually prefers some shade in the afternoon, which makes her one of the few plants on this list you can tuck along the east side of the house or under the high shade at the edge of a tree line and still get months of blue. Habit-wise, she's a weaver. The stems ramble outward, threading politely between neighboring plants and lacing everything together the way a good throw rug ties a room together. She'll spill over the edge of a raised bed, or drape out of a large container beautifully. She sets almost no seed, which is exactly why she blooms so relentlessly. And it also means she stays where you put her, no volunteers popping up in the lawn. Give her decent soil, a drink in bad droughts, and nothing else. If real tidiness urges strike you in midsummer, and she's sprawled further than you'd like, shear her back by 1/3, and she'll refresh herself in a couple of weeks. Again, allowed, never required. Number 4, threadleaf coreopsis. Number 4 proves that tough plants can look delicate. Threadleaf coreopsis. Coreopsis verticillata for the botanically inclined. grows into a soft, ferny, fine-textured mound that looks like a green mist, and then covers that mist with hundreds of small, cheerful, daisy-like blooms. The classic variety moonbeam flowers in a gentle, creamy, butter-pale yellow that goes with absolutely everything, and it earned its own Perennial Plant of the Year title doing it. If you want a stronger note, the variety Zagreb plays the same tune in bright gold. The bloom season runs from early summer into September, and the reason it makes this list is that succession trick we talked about. Every stem tip keeps producing new buds, so many at once that the finished flowers get lost under the fresh ones. From 6 feet away, and let's be honest, that's the distance most of us view our gardens from, the mound just reads as solid color from start to finish. This is another plant that punishes kindness. Fertile soil and generous water make it flop open in the middle, like a bad haircut. Lean, dry, sunny conditions keep it dense, upright, and covered in bloom. Planted in the hell strip, on the sunny slope, in the sandy corner, in the spots where you've watched fussier plants curl up and die. Native bees and butterflies visit it constantly, and if you leave the tiny seed heads alone in fall, goldfinches will swing by to pick through them like shoppers at a clearance rack. Divide the clumps every few springs when the centers start to thin, and you'll have a permanent, expanding supply of one of the most reliable perennials in North America. Number 5, daylily. Now for the plant that sounds like it has no business being here. Every daylily bloom lives for a single day. The bud cracks open with the morning, shines all afternoon, and folds up for good that evening. The scientific name hemerocallis literally translates from the Greek as beauty for a day. So how does a 24-hour flower belong on a list about months of carefree color? Because the plant doesn't make one flower. It makes hundreds. An established clump throws up a whole forest of bloom stalks, the ones gardeners call scapes, and every scape is loaded with buds, sometimes several dozen on a single stalk. They take turns. One finishes, the next opens, day after day, for weeks at a stretch. And the finished flower doesn't hang around looking miserable. It shrivels up small and drops off on its own, cleaned away by the plant itself while tomorrow's blooms take the stage. The clump never has an ugly day, even though every individual flower is gone by nightfall. The catalog choices are almost overwhelming. Thousands of varieties, every color but a true blue, ankle-high dwarfs up to back-of-the-border giants. Here's the strategy I recommend. Buy an early-season variety, a mid-season one, and a late one, and you've stretched daylily season across most of the summer. Better still, grab a rebloomer. The little golden workhorse Stella de Oro is the famous one, blooming hard in early summer, resting briefly, then starting again, and repeating in waves until cold weather ends the party. Daylilies are close to unkillable. Clay soil, drought, roadside conditions, salt, neglect, they shrug it all off. Sun gives you the heaviest flowering. Light shade is tolerated. Their one true enemy has 4 legs and big brown eyes. Deer eat daylily buds like candy, so in heavy deer country, plan on repellent or plan on a different plant. And if a finished scape standing there bare offends your eye, you can snap it off at ground level in 1 second, but hear me, that's purely for looks. The plant performs identically either way. Number 6, blanket flower. Time to turn up the heat. If most of this list works in cool blues and soft yellows, blanket flower is the bonfire in the middle of it. Gaillardia carries bold, daisy-formed flowers banded in red, orange, and gold, often all 3 on one bloom, arranged in rings like the patterns woven into the traditional blankets that gave the plant its everyday name. What blanket flower offers is one of the longest bloom windows in the entire perennial world. In a good year, it opens its first flowers in late spring and never stops until a hard frost pulls the plug, which can mean close to half a year of continuous color. And it does this without any deadheading, because it's a succession machine, always pushing the next round of buds while the last round fades underneath. Where should you plant it? In your worst spot. I mean that sincerely. Sand, gravel, baking sun, drought, wind, the strip by the road where the snowplow piles up. Blanket flower calls all of that home. What kills it is comfort. Rich soil and steady moisture rot it. Plain and simple. If you've lost blanket flower before and blamed yourself, the odds are your soil was too good for it. Starve it and it thrives. Butterflies work the blooms all summer long, and the fun continues after the petals drop, because the spent blooms turn into round, bristly seed globes on wiry stems. Goldfinches treat those globes like a buffet. There are few better rewards for doing nothing than sipping coffee on an October morning while wild finches strip your blanket flower seed heads. One honest disclosure: individual blanket flower plants tend to burn bright and short, often fading out after a few seasons. But leave those seed heads be, and the plant quietly sows its own replacements around itself, so the patch itself carries on year after year, effectively immortal, without you buying a single new pot. Number 7. Anise hyssop. Number 7 might be the least familiar name on today's list, and I'd love to change that, because Anise hyssop deserves a spot in every low-effort garden in the country. Botanists call it Agastache funiculum. It's a genuine North American native, and it builds upright, sturdy stems to about 3 or 4 feet, each one topped with a dense bottle brush spike, packed with hundreds of tiny lavender-purple flowers. Crush a leaf and you get a sweet licorice mint scent that explains the common name, and yes, the leaves make a lovely herbal tea if you're so inclined. Those flower spikes have a clever trick. The tiny blooms open gradually up the spike over a long stretch of time, so a single spike stays colorful for weeks, and the plant keeps producing new spikes from midsummer deep into fall. No deadheading needed, and no deadheading practical, since each spike carries more flowers than you could count. Even better, as the little flowers finish, the spike itself holds its color and its shape, so the plant looks intentional and attractive at every stage, rather than passing through an ugly phase. If you care about pollinators, and I know so many of you do, this may be the single best plant on the entire list. Bumblebees, honeybees, tiny native bees, butterflies, even hummingbirds work Anise hyssop from morning until dusk. It's routinely ranked among the top pollinator plants in North America. Meanwhile, the licorice-scented foliage repels deer and rabbits as reliably as Catmint's does. Care follows the family rules: sun, drainage, lean soil, and a dry stride once established. It will gently self-sow where it's happy, and in fall the seed spikes turn a warm brown and stand straight through winter snows, feeding the finches all the while. Leave them standing until spring cleanup, then cut everything down in one pass and you're done for the year. Number 8. Black-eyed Susan. I doubt this one needs an introduction, but it absolutely needs a place in your yard. Black-eyed Susan, the golden rudbeckia with the dark button center, is about as close to a guaranteed win as flower gardening offers. There's a reason you see it everywhere, from highway plantings to botanical gardens, and the reason is that it simply works, in nearly any soil, in nearly any year, for nearly any gardener. From the middle of summer until well past the first cool nights of fall, a healthy patch produces gold by the armload. Could you coax out a few extra blooms by deadheading? Perhaps a handful, but we're talking about a plant that already flowers for 2 to 3 months straight without any help. The math just doesn't favor the effort. The classic variety Goldsturm built its worldwide reputation precisely on this: masses of bloom, zero maintenance, year after dependable year. And when the petals finally do fall, Don't you dare rush out there with the pruners, because the second act is worth watching. Those dark center cones stiffen and stand through the winter like little iron sculptures, and they're packed with seed that goldfinches consider premium groceries. Come a snowy morning in December, you can watch bright yellow birds swaying on those dark stems above the white drifts. A live show your neighbor with the perfectly stripped and edged beds will never see. Black-eyed Susans take full sun or a few hours of shade, tolerate almost any soil that isn't a swamp, and expand into fuller clumps each season, often scattering a few seedlings around to fill gaps you didn't know you had. They make terrific cut flowers too, lasting a week or more in a vase, so harvest freely all summer. The patch outside won't show a dent. If cheerfulness were a plant, it would be this one. Number 9, Coneflower. And we finish with the flower I'd nominate as the crown jewel of carefree gardening, the purple coneflower. Echinacea grew wild on the American prairie long before any of us showed up with trowels, and every ounce of that prairie toughness is still in it. Strong stems that never need staking, bold daisy blooms with that proud, bristled central cone, and a flowering season that stretches from midsummer until mid-fall. The heritage color is that unmistakable dusty rose purple, but walk through any garden center today and you'll find coneflowers in white, gold, tangerine, salmon, deep red, and shades between. A word from experience, though. The nearer a variety stays to the wild original, the longer it tends to live, and the less it tends to complain. Some of the flashiest double-flowered novelties are dazzling for one summer and gone by the third. When you're unsure, choose plain and proven over fancy and fragile. Requirements: sun, drained soil, and space. That's the complete list. Heat doesn't bother it, drought doesn't bother it, pests mostly ignore it, and pollinators absolutely adore it. In high summer, every open bloom seems to have its own bee or butterfly assigned to it, working the cone in slow circles. But here's where letting go really pays off. Skip the deadheading, and those cones ripen into dark, spiky seed knobs on rigid stems, and they become the centerpiece of your winter garden. They hold their posture through wind, ice, and snow. They look magnificent wearing frost. And they operate as a bird feeder that never once needs refilling, hosting finches, chickadees, and juncos through the coldest weeks. A few seeds will escape the birds and sprout nearby, free coneflowers for you to move around or pot up for friends. Deadhead the plant and you get flowers. Leave it alone and you get flowers, plus birds, plus winter beauty, plus new plants. It's the rare case in life where the lazier choice is the wiser one on every count. Now let me paint you the finished scene, because these 9 aren't just individual plants, they're a team that plays a full season together. Picture a sunny bed along your front walk. At the back, that smoky violet cloud of Russian sage sways beside the upright purple spikes of Anise hyssop. The middle ranks glow with black-eyed Susans and coneflowers, standing shoulder to shoulder, Daylilies unfurling fresh trumpets every single morning beside them. Down front, Catmint pours its blue haze over the pavement edge. Roseanne threads her violet saucers through everything within reach, and the pale moons of coreopsis float over ferny foliage, while blanket flower crackles red and orange at the corner like a lit match. That bed opens in May and doesn't close until frost. It feeds every bee for a mile all summer and every finch in the neighborhood all winter. It ignores drought, turns away deer more often than not, and asks you for exactly one real work session per year. A single cut down on some mild day at winter's end to clear the stage for spring. No evening deadheading rounds, no weekend snipping marathons, no twinge of guilt when you choose the porch swing and the lemonade over the kneeling pad, because the garden was designed from day one not to need you out there. That's the whole idea I hope you carry away today. The garden should bend around your life, not the other way around. Choose plants that manage themselves. And gardening goes back to being what it was always supposed to be. Fresh air, birdsong, beauty out the kitchen window, and the quiet pride of having made a living thing flourish. If today's list helped you, share this video with someone who loves flowers but has run out of patience for fussy ones, and tell me in the comments which easy care perennial I should have included, because I read every single comment and your suggestions genuinely shape what I film next. And if you're not subscribed yet, fix that now and tap the bell while you're at it, so we don't lose track of each other. From my front yard to yours, I'm Helen, and this has been Helen's Front Yard. Plant smart, sit back, and let the flowers do the working. I'll see you in the next one.